let's open it up for questions. Here's the mic for the questions. Yes, they have amazing wireless technology.
Okay, so my main question is, what was the incentive in the first place for time travel in the Shokrafian Empire?
I think mainly power and control. So in like human terms, we would probably describe the Shokrafian Empire as like a fascist autocracy. But it's like way more extreme than anything that we know. Like the most extreme version of that on Earth is like China, where the government like knows everything and can control all of things. But the Shokraf really has like direct access to every Shokrafian citizen's mind directly. And they're basically also functioning on like a hive mind. It's much more closer to an ant colony than to like a human civilization. So I think the main incentive for inventing time travel, I should probably also explain how time travel works for the Shokrafians, because it's not exactly what we imagine. They perform time travel through matter. So they have these very sophisticated devices that can calculate the movement of atoms. And they can manipulate matter in such a way that they basically reverse the movement of the atoms. So they can, like in a very simple terms, they can record the movement of atoms of a tree and then shoot a ray at this tree and make it younger, make it like degrow, or the other way around, make it grow faster. But this also allows for history manipulation. You can go back to an historical site and change some things up, and then you can make, for example, historical claims for some planets. And it makes it easier to manipulate your civilization to want to conquer this planet and to cooperate with the empire. So I believe this was the main incentive for time travel.
I want to know what's the average life expectancy for these people.
So it's very hard to measure because, first of all, their sun is way larger than our own. So like a single cycle of their planet, and it's not one planet also, right? They're a civilization that is also, it's composed of many different species. So these are just the proto-Shokrafians. In modern Shokrafian, there are way more species. We actually started like researching into that, like right the way they look and like how their physiology. So I think it really depends. There are some Shokrafian beings that have really short life expectancies compared to us, and some that might live for example, the Shokraf. The Shokraf have lived through 3 ages now, since the 4th age till today, the 6th age. So this is like at least 100,000 years in Shokrafian years, which are longer than our own because their sun is larger. So it's like, yeah. So you have some beings that live forever, basically, and some beings that might live for a day.
Who is there, like, historical, religious, known figures like their Jesus? Who is their Jesus?
It's actually like an interesting comparison because, of course, it's hard to compare, but like the religion is like surprisingly like not dissimilar to our own religion. So it's really interesting. So I would say Garth is very like who's the main character of the Tablets of Holath, and he's also a prominent character in Book of Holes, which is the next translation project in this in the Shokrafian mythology. So he is basically like their Abraham or Moses. So like a very important prophet who talks directly to the deities. But I would say the monarch Uto, who united all civilizations into a singular empire that became the Shokrafian Empire, I would say he's like their Jesus in a way. Yeah.
How do they procreate?
So this is really interesting. So
the elephant in the
So this is actually also mentioned in Book of Holes, but
We actually have a video.
if you look at this picture over there, we can see the prophet Goareth talking to the prophet Gonisha, and as you can see, he has this like hole in the middle of his stomach. So that's his seed sac. Shokrafians have the proto-Shokrafians had seeds, and technically they can have a non-sexual procreation, because you can take one seed of one Shokrafian and one seed of another, and you put them in a womb of one of the Shokrafians or of another Shokrafian. So you don't even have to, and this was socially accepted. That usually you won't have the pregnancy yourself. You'll have like the father, the mother, and the birther. So you had to have a male seed and a female seed in order to procreate, but anyone could get pregnant. No, I think that because of their method of procreation, like getting pregnant accidentally is not a problem for them.
In the very the very rare example where one Shokrafian leaves out a seed and the other Shokrafian stumbles and just falls on the seed, maybe.
Must have happened at least once. I agree.
In that case, they turn it into Shokrafian cocktails.
What drew you to translate and document it in a way?
Specifically, the Shokrafian.
Yes.
So it's interesting. I have been basically in contact with the Shokrafians ever since 2005. So it's like 20 years by now. And I've been in contact with other civilizations as well, but like I think I've been in contact with the Shokrafians the longest. And I was always fascinated by their culture and history, especially the points where we see the similarities to our own. And they're like so alien, they're so far removed from us, but at the same time, we have a lot to learn from them, right? Because they have a history of hundreds of thousands of years, and we have like a very short history. So there's a lot of us to learn from them, especially from their mistakes. I think, it's like, especially because of what is going on now in the Shokrafian Empire, this whole global cooling thing, the resource crisis. I think it's like, there's a lot for us to learn from that, and I think it's good to make this information accessible to humans, so we could at least reflect on that and think about that together.
I have a question, if it's okay, regarding the translation process.
Yes, please.
You mentioned that translation is difficult because they are four-dimensional beings, and if I understood correctly, their writing system is, if it can be called that, three-dimensional.
Yes.
Now, what I imagine is, an extraterrestrial civilization that has no eyes, for example, tries to translate one of our texts. They might have difficulties understanding a simple phrase like, I see.
True.
Or for now,
True.
but I mean it. Or for example, if they don't even have spoken language, something like, Your Honor, that's hearsay. They might not know. I mean, that may be difficult to answer from the top of your head right now, but have you encountered any particular difficulties in that regard?
So luckily for us, this is one of the things that actually makes it easier to approach the Shokrafian civilization compared to others. They have exactly the same senses as we do. They have the sense of touch, they have the sense of smell, they can hear, they can see, they can speak. So this makes it very easy for us, and also they invented writing as a form of documentation. So again, like because they carved their writing. That's true. This was also like the source for the three-dimensional writing system. originally we also had three-dimensional writing system because we also carved our letters into tablets or walls or whatever, or stone. But once print was invented, we have moved completely to, I mean, even before print, right? With like, once we could normally write with like easier utensils that are not like grinding into walls.
Chisel and, a hammer and a chisel, basically. Like there is this very famous, very early human story that is basically chiseled into the walls of ancient Mesopotamia, which I find really interesting. But with the Shokrafians, I think they moved away from like the very physical version of that, right, and got more like digital with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, starting the second age, they already had like digital technology, of course, yeah. But I mean, there are other cultures, for example, the Argolites, that are not that didn't invent like writing systems. So it's much harder to approach them, and their set of senses is completely different. So luckily for us, the Shokrafians are similar enough to us, so we could actually interpret some of their history and texts.
You said the text is three-dimensional, so it's like X, Y, and Z, let's say.
Yes.
So how, like, I can understand how X and Y can function, but how does the Z, the curving into something from the beginning change?
So you have like a dimension of depth in the writing system, which also affects the meaning of a word or a letter or a sentence.
Like the deeper it gets, like the deeper.
I mean, this is a very simplified thing, but like also the writing system is based on stones. I think the most similar to that humans have is like kanji. So it's like a single stone has like a very specific meaning, but it can be manipulated in very different ways, like the way the shape is formed. As their writing system has advanced and technology has advanced, they also invented like very complex ways of changing physical forms and manipulating matter, and they also developed a very high sensitivity. So like maybe for us, we'll see a shape or a stone, it would just look like a circle to us, and another stone it would look like the exact same circle. But like for Shokrafians, they might see actually different forms because they actually distinguish like very small details on the stones.
Wait. Sorry for having so many questions, but then again, it was an interesting point here. She talked about the fact that, well, like sight is the most dominant sense in our body, humans. This is why writing, for example, is with the visual. But then again, are there Shokrafian dogs, or like dogs are like the most dominant sense is smelling? So their entire.
Actually, do you want to take this, because we just started research into like a Shokrafian fauna.
Yes. I just wanted to like add from before, differences that you mentioned that we would not perceive but would be very obvious for Shokrafians, like just the way in which direction the circle basically has been chiseled. Like if it has been chiseled like clockwise or counterclockwise, and that would already be a very different meaning for them. And in regards to the senses, we have just started our research in a very interesting area, the glades, that is comprised of a very dense and basically lightless forest, and then clearings that are inhabited by these keepers, which are mostly female Shokrafians, as I remember. Yes. And the fauna and the flora there is very different to what we are kind of used to, and like I think it gives a very good example of how there's like different how life adapted differently to this planet and like the original planet basically, and how it interacts with Farfa. And I think that also kind of applies to Shokrafians themselves. I'm not quite sure if if they have like a heightened sense. I just what I know is that a lot of Shokrafians kind of blinded themselves to Farfa because they felt his light to be too intense. And that was like they clothed their whole bodies, for example, because they felt their light was too scorching for them. And like the fauna, for example, the flora and the fauna in the forest and the glades has very clearly adapted to the lack of Farfa's light. And when it receives the light, it becomes really crazy. Like there's a flora that behaves like jellyfish, basically, that has like tendrils that kind of move around, or flowers that dance around to find the light of Farfa and stuff like that. Like just a lot more sentience in a way than we are used to from plants. And I found that really interesting and fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, and also actually, if you look here, you can see a Zathta, which is basically it covers the same function of like a fennec fox. So it's like a desert fox, yeah, a fennec fox, yeah, exactly. So yeah, they have a lot of different types of animals. Actually, a lot of them are mentioned also in the books. They also had some like holy animals. They had 5 noble creatures of the land, which were creatures that also communicated with Farfa in different ways. And one of them is actually mentioned in the Tablets of Holath. So yeah, they have a very how would you call it? Diverse set of creatures, even during the first stage, but like especially today when they're like a multi-planetary civilization. All right, I think we'll move to your presentation, and then we can take up more questions.
Yes.